Okay, welcome to our lecture series on Ephesians. Today's lecture is on Ephesians chapter 5, verses 22 to chapter 6, verse 9. This lecture is entitled as Displaying God's Wisdom in Our Various Relationships. Displaying God's wisdom in our various relationships. In a corrupt world, we discussed in the previous verses, in a corrupt world, we need to walk in love, not in unloving sin. We need to walk in light, not in darkness. We need to walk in wisdom, not in foolishness. Three sets of contrast. From there, we move forward to understand how best we can come close to God. The relationship between Christ and his church. In verse 23, we see Christ is the head and Savior. Christ is the head and the Savior. Let me read verse 23. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 23. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Christ is the head and Savior. So today there are so many quarrels, fightings, and divorce in the families because there is no maturity. There is a chaos. There is a disorder. We need to really understand this text, verse 22 onwards, the relationship between wife and husband. In the context, Paul says, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself in Savior. Submitting to one another. Because Christ is the head and the Savior. Therefore, the church is to be subject to Christ in everything. Church should submit to Christ in everything. Christ loves the church and gave himself for it. In verse 25, we just read it. Christ sanctifies, cleanses, and washes the church. Verse 26 and 27, let me read it for you. Husbands, verse 25, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. Without blemish. Christ nurtures and cherishes it. The church is one with Christ as the husband and wife. Church is one with Christ as husband and wife. You know, here, husband and wife should come to an agreement. They should grow as one body. They should continue to grow in that steadily growth. As the kids see in the family, they also start growing. In that context, Paul says, the relationship between a husband and wife, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord in everything. Quite interesting. Here the text says, submit to your own husbands. Does it mean that there are some husbands or what? No. Submit to your own husbands. Sometimes these ladies, not all, even that to matter, even the husbands also, as equal as wife and husbands. They submit to their boss, they submit to everybody in the outside, but when it comes to the home, in the immediate relationship, it is very difficult for them to submit to one another. That's the reason Paul says, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord in everything. The husband is head of the wife. As Christ is the head of the church, this is the order Bible gives. The feminist theologians today, they think Bible has been written with a male dominant spirit. And there are voices now saying that let's rewrite the Bible. God is understood as a male, and Jesus selected only male as his disciples, and God is understood as a he. Why can't we rewrite as a she? The mother God, she. And there are a lot of voices now in theology, but the Bible clearly says the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. There is an order God has created. Doesn't mean who is great in the family, both are equal, but there is an order to function well. A family should function well. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church. Submission and love, they go hand in hand. The wife needs to submit to the husband. Husband should love the wife. Both should happen, not one-way traffic. There are women all the time they submit. The husband doesn't learn how to love the wife. Husband is still in the simple old nature. Husband should love. Love covers all. Wife submits. That family constantly grows in the knowledge of God. Many families will have a slogan in their drawing room. Christ is the head of this family. But they constantly fight each other, no peace of mind. If the Christ is the head of the family, wife submit to the husband, husband loves the wife. In that love relationship, there is a flood of love. Children swim in that love and they enjoy the presence of God. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church. Husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. Sometimes these husbands in the office here and there, they appreciate wives everywhere. Wow, this saree is good. Today you're looking good. But when they come home, they don't have any words for the wives. They take it granted. I hope I have asked you to read this book, 5 Love Languages. I think I have posted in a group. There are 5 love languages: appreciation, acts of service, giving gifts, and physical touch. There's something else I forgot. We need to operate our love through those acts. Husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies, nourishing and cherishing. The husband and wife are one. How they become one, that's the mystery of the marriage. God intends husband and wife, they become one. In interest, in decision making, and raising the children, or any decision making, they become one. When children see the unity of father and mother, they enjoy, they start growing in a godly environment. That's the relationship between a husband and wife. Importance of love and respect can be seen here in verse 33. Paul says in chapter 5, verse 33. Let me read it for you. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. This is a psychological need. In a patriotic society in India, particularly Asian context, male expects respect from the female. Husband expects respect from the wife. It is a biblical culture also. Sarai called her husband Swami, my master. English says master. In Telugu language, it is very clearly translated Swami, my Lord. In our cultures, there are respecting words, particularly in Telugu states, they call husband, wives call husband Emandi, a respecting word. Husbands need to love wife by acts of service. Love and respect should go hand in hand. If a wife respects the husband, he comes back to home with love. If the husband extends his love and he gives an extraordinary love to the wife floats in that love, and then she will continue to be at the feet. There will be a kind of logic here, love and respect. should be seen in family. Then what happened, there will be joy, peace, and happiness. The Spirit of God works. There will be unity. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. How the children obey in the Lord? When they see the love and the respect in their father and mother. Today, why children are becoming so rebellious? Because very, very few families have that love and respect. Everybody is individualistic. Children, honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. How children honor their father and mother? When the children see their father and mother honoring their father and mother. Today we have a culture. Nobody likes the old people. So much luxury, lot of money. They want to throw money, keep the old people into an orphanage or maybe some kind of old age home here and there. They say, Dad, Mom, we can send a lot of money. And there are wives. Now the wives say, you decide whether you want your father and mother or you want me. You decide. Straight away people are telling me. If you want your parents, I want to pack my luggage and I want to go. I have a job, I have a security, I am different, you are different, I can't bear with you. What this poor guy will say, slowly he will pack his parents and then he take them to somewhere in an old age home and drops them and gives to the parents without knowing why. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Children, honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. When we honor, when we take care of the parents, our children will see how they do. And when we become old, our children also know how to serve us. So we need darshan. Education happens by observation. But today, most of the Christian families are also, because Christians are more westernized. Even now, the Hindu families honor their parents, they respect their parents, particularly the Hindu culture is a rich culture. Because it is an ancient culture. When I say Hindu culture, I'm not talking about religion, Indian culture. It's a rich culture because it's a biblical culture, most of the Indian culture. In our Hindu neighbors, culturally, they do Shashti Purti. When the parents are near 60 years, they do Shashti Purti. And they invite all the relatives and they do a lot of good things and they appreciate parents and they do a lot of things. They buy gifts. And most of the Hindu families, they take care of their parents comparative to the Christians, I'm saying. Because they think it is a blessing for them. But whereas the Christian families, I may be wrong, you can correct me, but as per my observation, most of the Christian families, because influenced the Western mind, hi-fi lifestyle, they keep, Bible says from the beginning, we have a wrong theology implemented from the day one of the marriage, saying that leave, what is that? Of course, it's there in the Bible, but it's a different context. We misinterpret it and saying that leave. Don't live with your parents, leave your parents. And unless your wife and husband, you should understand each other. Don't allow your parents to live with them. So we grow in our failures. We grow in our misunderstandings. There is a lot of maturity in joint family. But who cares now today? There is so much knowledge in joint family. Children, grandchildren, but today family became so nucleus. Nucleus, even now wife and husband living separately. How they honor father and mother, actually it is a biblical command. Biblical command. How do we honor? By respecting them, by taking care of their needs, which is the first commandment with promise. When we honor them, when are gone, we need to teach our coming generations. Coming generation never know how to take care of the elderly people. Fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath. Fathers should be strict, but they should not irritate children. We should give them some freedom. Bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. Training children. There is a saying in Telugu that says, Telugu language, it says, Mokkai wanganide moranai wanguna. if you can't bend the plant when it is small, can it bend when it becomes a huge tree? It's impossible. It will break. That's what happened in many families. Parents, they will never discipline their children when they were very small. And they suffer when the children become big. They get addicted to so many bad habits, and they cry and weep and fasting and praying. They circulate the prayer requests everywhere. It is too late. It is too late. Paul says here, bond servants, be obedient to those who are your masters. I will never encourage a slavery system, but within the context, within the limitation, when we are working under somebody, we need to be obedient, knowing that whatever good anyone does, he will receive the same from the Lord. Masters, the same, the relationship between the masters and the servants. Masters do not do the same things to them, giving up, threatening, knowing that your own master also is in heaven and there is no partiality with him. We also have a master in heaven. When we treat our subordinates, our paid employers, we should respect them. Sometimes people think I'm paying, he's my employer. They can firing. Today in the corporate world, they call it as a firing. If they want to remove somebody, they dehumanize him. Firing. They bring him to the four walls inside the room and they put so many blame and fire at him. He run away from the job. So it is not a godly attitude. Can the Christians do that? Yes, of course. Most of the mission leaders do that. Most of the mission leaders, they don't know how to treat their workers. They enjoy the luxury, but they don't know how to give good salaries or taking care of them and at least speaking kind words. Jesus Christ and his church. The relationship between Jesus Christ and the church has been discussed here, and also a husband and his wife, and a parents and their children, servants and their masters. Four prominent truths have been discussed in this chapter 6. The relationship between Christ and his church, the relationship between husband and wife, the relationship with parents and their children, the relationship between servants and their masters. May God help us to build good relationships. Are you displaying God's wisdom in your relationships? Because we cannot escape relationships. May God continue to bless